Hi everybody, welcome to another video. This one's stripping paint off well, it's nearly a 6-gallon motorcycle tank, so it's huge. I mean, I'm 6.5 foot and quite a big chap, but you can see even for me it's quite a big old tank. Having said that, it's actually quite nice to work on the inside because it gives you plenty of room to get in there. So I thought I'd make a video of this. I've done one of stripping before and it was reasonably well received, but it's something you need to do if you're going to do a proper restoration of something. Really, you need to take it down to bare metal, just so that you know it's all done properly. Really, it saves the chances of getting reactions between different paints that's on there, especially if you buy, like this one's a second-hand tank. If you buy second-hand tanks, people have sometimes made little just put little touch-up paints of stone chips or whatever, done a little bit of spraying here and there, and if it's not the same as the stuff you're putting on, and even if it is, you still stand a chance of getting it reacting. So if you're going to do stuff properly, is maybe the wrong word, but if you're going to do thoroughly, is probably the better word. If you're going to do stuff thoroughly, then you do need to strip it. Now this is speeded up, I think it's 4 or 5 times, and it's still a 12-minute video. But as I say, I thought it was worth uploading. Now, you can get various paint strippers. This is actually a really good paint stripper. I've got a 5-gallon tin of it, and I use it, and it seems to work really well. I'm not going to say the name because these videos are watched all over the world, and you probably won't be able to get it where you are because we're just in the UK. But if you do want to know, drop me a line at the bottom, and I'll give you the details. But it's pointless for me saying it because these chemical stuffs are very much dependent on where you are, as to what you can be used, or where you can use them, what countries you can use them. So as I say, drop me a message and I'll always answer it. It's only a small channel, so most of the stuff these days I can answer because we don't get loads and loads of volume. But you can see that the way I'm applying it, you'll see the gloves, and I've gone through this before, but if you haven't seen the other video, this stuff can be really bad for your hands because it just burns it. Now I was doing this and it was about, I think it was about 5 degrees, 6 degrees, something like that, so it's quite cold. And in the garage, because the walls are concrete and the floor's concrete, etc., it actually gets colder than that, and you can end up burning your skin before you realise you've burnt your skin, if that makes sense. So by the time you get the sensation of warmth, it's too late. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it will burn the skin. So make sure you have, I use nitrile gloves. I change them reasonably often, and I sometimes put 2 pairs on just to give me that extra layer, but it still goes through the gloves. So do make sure you've got some good gloves on. The other thing is ventilation. Make sure you've got ventilation. I've got some fans on where the doors open to allow all the excess fumes to go, and you probably can see sometimes when I bend over a bit, you can see that I've got a full mask on for gas and particulate, so it does protect you. But I thought it's quite interesting to watch when you see this stuff taking the stuff off. It's really good because it enables you to get down to the bare metal quite quickly. The other method, of course, is people sand it, don't they? Which I tend not to do because it just seems to take so long. And if you find a good chemical stripper, then it's much better to do it that way, I think, anyway. And the other thing I was going to say is I was just going to say about the channel, really. I've got a couple of tanks. You'll be familiar, if you watch the channel, you'll be familiar that I've got 2 project tanks. Sorry, 1 project tank. Well, I've got another one, which I've just got, and I've stripped that down, taken the dents out of it, and put some filler on it, etc., etc. And I've in the process of getting ready to prime it up. I'll upload the video when I prime it up, because I'm going to use the FLG5. I've borrowed the FLG5 back, and those of you familiar will know that I let a friend have it. Well, not have it, but you know, a friend took it, and he's lent me it back, and he's also got a 1.3 tip on it. So with the project tanks, I'm going to do, the aim is to do some comparisons of different guns on exactly the same tank in exactly the same conditions on the same day, everything the same basically, with the same materials, because I think that's the best way to actually go about seeing if you can you know, see which one's better really. If you do one thing one day, one thing another day, I don't think it always works, because conditions really do count when you're doing things like base coat and clear coat, because it helps it go off quicker. It's just better. It's better to do it so that it's all done at the same time. You see, I'm using a scraper here, a metal scraper, and you'll also see that some of the paint doesn't come off immediately. So you have to reapply 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times, and eventually it will. It's just that sometimes the lacquer, if the lacquer's a bit thicker, it won't go through it doesn't go through completely the lacquer into the paint, so you end up with a piece of paint without the lacquer on it, and for some reason some of it just will not come off in the end, but it's so little. And then I just get normally a wire brush on the end of a small grinder, a small angle grinder. I use a small angle grinder because they run faster, and just finish it off that way. But it's a good way of preparing the tank. As I say, it probably took about an hour and a half altogether. Don't worry, the video doesn't go on that long. As I said, it's about 12 minutes. But it's the best way I've found of stripping it. But you do need a good, powerful stripper. You'll notice I haven't got the mask on now, because once you put the plastic over, I mean, I put the plastic over it because it increases the intensity of the stripper, basically. But once it's effectively eaten into the paint, it becomes more or less dry, and the odour goes as well. So it only has a sort of like limited time. I put the sheet of plastic over for about 15 minutes, you know, go and make a cup of coffee or tea or something like that, whatever, or do whatever else you've got to do. That's what I always do, and it gives you enough time then for it to eat into the paintwork that it's going to eat into. But I mean, this is, you know, as I say, this is a big old tank, 25.5 litres, which is about 5.5, and in US gallons, nearly 6 gallons. So it's a big old lump. And I'm estimating it's going to take about 350 millilitres of paint to do, you know, the inside and the outside, because this is a proper project, so it needs to be done, you know, properly, so to speak. And that's the idea of showing you this, really. But as I say, be really careful with this stuff, because it is lethal. Now you see me putting on the extra stuff, and you just have to keep doing this. And I can't remember whether I did it 3 times, 4 times, or whatever. But you do have to just keep doing this until most of it's gone. And do make sure when you're doing stuff like this, don't be tempted to leave little bits in a corner or on a crease that are harder to get to, and for some reason don't want to come off with a stripper. Do, you know, for the sake of an extra half an hour or maybe an hour that it takes to get those little bits off, you can save yourself hours afterwards, because hopefully you won't, but you can get a reaction. And by leaving just little bits of paint in a, like, as I say, a crease, a typical example is at the bottom of the tank, where the tank's welded at the bottom, but so where the underneath of the tank is put onto the top, basically, and you get like a little crease weld around the bottom, and you get little bits of paint stuck in that weld that don't always come out because they're not easy to get to. But get yourself a wire brush on the end of an angle grinder and go along that crease to make sure everything's out. And also you can see there in the middle of the frame the little lugs, which is where the side panels go on. It's a simple tank in that it's all one colour. But the little lugs where the side panels are also a place you have to be really careful not getting any rubbish or anything in there, because if you do, it can react, and if that little bit reacts, it can spread over parts that you can see more easily, and it really wrecks the job. So for the, as I say, for the extra half an hour to an hour, you know, you might do it properly. It might only take you 10 minutes, but you can see there where the stuff has reacted with the fresher paint, because it's taken the lacquer off. One thing I did notice, that, I mean, there's rust on the underneath of this tank, and you do need to remove most of that. I removed that with a wire brush, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier about this tank being actually easier to work on than some, because you can get in there easy. So you can get in there with a wire brush on the end of a grinder and really get into that rust, and get a sander in there and get it down to you know, as little as you can, because rust can be a problem later on. You know, it depends what prime. Sometimes you can get like epoxy primers that will have an anti-rust compound in them, but so it depends what you use really. But here we are coming towards the end, and here you see it's actually quite a shiny example now. Now that then would not come out, and I actually soldered that. Which I've done a little video. I'll just upload a short video when I get a chance. I'll just edit that and show you that. But here's the finished article. Now there's loads of little dents on this tank. I actually bought it really cheap, and it's for my one of my project bikes. I've got a Honda Varadero that I'm doing a little project on, so I wanted a tank for it. And this thing cost me virtually nothing. It's about 25 quid, I think, including postage. Sorry. So it doesn't owe me much, but there was loads and loads of small dents on it. And it was, you know, I tried various methods of pulling, etc. Which is, as I say, I'll do a little video so that you can see really complete from start to finish the progress of the tank. But as I say, I thought it was worth. I know sometimes these things are a bit boring, which is why I've speeded it up so much, but I did want people to see it really, so that they can see what you should get to before you, you know, if you're going to do a job that you really pride yourself in, you need to get down to this before you actually start doing all the rest of it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for all the subscriptions to everybody, and as I say, thanks very much for watching, and I'll upload the other videos soon. Cheers, thanks again, bye bye.